You know, it took a lot of guts, I guess, or maybe the fact that Sue and I are both kind of radical women, to set about creating songs to illustrate the stories of the women in the Bible, because they were outrageous. They were outrageous women. Almost every one of the stories in the Bible that involves a woman is kind of wild. And when people say, we should really have Bible reading in our public schools, I want to say, well, some of these stories are kind of X-rated, you know. And when people asked us to create a work that would illustrate the stories of women in the Bible, we understood this. And the more we studied, the more we understood it. The stories of women in the Bible, the stories of everyone's heart, everyone's life of love and self-discovery, is a story of risk, tremendous risk. Now, the story of Tamar isn't usually told in Sunday school, not for the kids, so don't tell them I told you this. This is a story right in the middle of Genesis about how the 12 tribes came to be. Judah was one of the sons of Jacob, and they would be responsible for moving this idea forth toward the 12 tribes, expression of the spirituality of humankind in that way. But Judah's wife had made transition, and he showed no interest in remarrying. You know some Judas, I imagine, in life. He had 3 sons. Now, the first son, he married to Tamar, a local woman, a woman of strength, character, probably not of the tribes of Israel. She was unusual. She was radical. She probably had a God idea that included a divine feminine aspect. Her husband died. So according to Levirate law, she was then given to the next brother, something that keeps my husband's brother afraid all the time. Good reason. If you say to Rob, if you walk up to Rob really fast, what are you doing? He'll be, is she here? So that's it. So anyway, in the story, the second husband also died. Now we have to remember that when reading Bible stories, we're not just focused on the fact that people live and died or born and have battles and so forth, the Amorites and the Hittites and all those ites. We're talking about ideas, aspects of character. And you are all the characters, and you're finding yourself in these stories. So then Tamar expects, by the law, to be given the younger brother. Her whole motive is to perpetuate the family, to bring children to the tribe. And this doesn't mean that we're supporting the necessity of giving birth. I think that that's a beautiful thing if you're called to do that. But you can be a fulfilled human being and not be a father or mother, because there's a world full of children and a world full of ideas for you to nurture and further on the path. But in this case, in the story, Tamar wants children, and she wants children in that line. So kind of translate is, this is the soul that wants to fulfill its creative impulse in whatever way it feels led to do. She knows that Judah is going up for the sheep shearing, which is kind of like a big hootenanny, I think. And he's going to come back in a good mood. So as he's walking along the path, she wraps up in her shawl, and oddly in the story, she becomes more flirtatious by the fact that she's more covered, something we like to tell our teenage girls today. Is that your navel? What is that in there? But you'll be more mysterious if you put this on quick. But he assumes her to be one of the temple prostitutes. I know we said that word in church. It's right from the Bible. So they make an arrangement. She's in disguise. He doesn't know that she is his own daughter-in-law, widowed twice. He's been withholding his third son. Do you blame him? tomorrow wasn't good news for the first two. So she comes back home, and then it becomes clear that she's going to give birth, and they're ready to annihilate her because she is not married. And she's going to have a baby, and oh my goodness, this has always been a problem for women in every culture, a special issue. So then she produces the staff and the seal, which was like his Amex gold card that he had entrusted with her. He was going to have somebody bring her a goat the next day. I don't know how that would work well on the streets of our city. Here's a goat. No. So anyway, in the time it was good currency. Now, not so much. I wouldn't recommend it. I don't think you'll get any takers on that. But she wasn't there when the guy came back with the goat, but she still had the ring and the seal and the staff. So when she was about to be burned for being with child out of wedlock, she produced these items which validated that Judah was the father of her children, turned out to be twins. So, yeah, it's a cool story, and what happens is you follow the line of these twins, and they become a strong element in conquering the promised land for the children of Israel. They have a role to play in the fulfillment of humankind. So it was very essential. I can imagine you trying to explain to your father or mother or your great aunt that in order for humankind to be blessed, you must wait at the edge of the road wrapped up like a prostitute. I don't know if she's going to buy it or he's going to buy it, you know. What I'm saying is that I'm not suggesting that you do things that are against your ethics, not ever. I'm not suggesting that you take risks that put you in danger, like trying to cross US 19 with your eyes shut. Not a good plan. It's hard enough just driving down the road according to the regular rules. But you see, I'm not really going to suggest that you do firewalks. If you want to, that can be very validating for a person. You can jump out of airplanes, hopefully with a parachute, and I think that can be very validating. But my own personal feeling is that the risks that I am called to take just to be who I know myself to be are fully sufficient to test any degree of courage and bravery that I'm required to have. So I'm not suggesting that you do things that might seem to you to be foolhardy or put you in danger. But I am suggesting that sometimes if you really want your life to change, you may have to be brave and to step out on faith. The story that we started with in preparing the screens for today didn't show up yet in our responsive reading because it's a story you know so well, the one about Moses leading the children of Israel across the Red Sea. It's a powerful story. Nobody does it better than Charlton Heston, right? Majestic, godlike. If you read the story, it's quite thrilling. Now, of course, I realize that there are all those documentaries on television, the History Channel, fascinating stuff, saying that the Red Sea really should have meant the Reed Sea, and that there was a low ebb just at the right moment, and the children of Israel were able to walk across it because it was really shallow. And then when the Egyptian army came, all of a sudden it filled up again and drowned all of them. Well, I have to say, I don't disbelieve the miracle. I accept it. But the point of the story is that you carry that idea into your Red Sea, into your Egyptian army. Because, see, the problem here for the children of Israel was really not the Egyptian army. It was really not the Red Sea. It was their fear of it. So your problem is not what the doctor said or what the attorney or the judge said. Your problem isn't really what the government's doing or isn't doing or whatever anybody else is doing. I'm not saying there shouldn't be changes in these areas. I'm saying your immediate problem is not that stuff. Your immediate problem is your fear of that stuff. See, the whole thing is the children of Israel had become enslaved. We can relate. We know about slavery in this country. We've cooperated with it. We put up with it. We've promoted it. It's history. We're moving beyond it. We still have a ways to go. Because the concept that any person could be in bondage to another is a human concept. It's a rather universal issue to be dealt with. There are many kinds of slavery in this world still, and the subtle ones are ones you deal with every day. They're the little things when you say, well, I'd be afraid to do that. I don't think I could do, I think it's too late for, oh, that's too much for me. I'm not good enough for that. No, I couldn't take that risk. Really? If you are in some part of your being saying, there's something about this life that isn't right for me, you can make all your lists of pros and cons, like the counselors will ask you to do. What would you lose if you lost this? What would you gain if it worked out the way you wanted? And no matter how long you make those lists, it's going to come down to this. Are you ready? Let's go. The whole idea was the children of Israel getting a bigger God idea. They were dwelling in a theocracy where Pharaoh was God, where there was the temple, there were the statues, there was the ritual. It was all right there. So how could they possibly leave that? How can you leave your realm of thinking where everything is just that way and there's no other option for you and there's nothing else that can be done and sorry, we tried, give it up? You're going to have to get a bigger God. If you've come to the end of the line and there's a Red Sea and you don't know how to get across it, you can't really turn around and say, oh, well, I guess I'll just make myself comfortable here as a slave and put up with this. You can't. Go ahead and try. I've tried. Have you ever? You come to a moment when quite surprisingly your feet just sort of turn toward the door and you find yourself, what am I doing? Where am I going? What's happening? And what's happening is you got done with the slavery. And you will go on to the next thing. Because you must. You must. You don't want a God idea that's limited to this place or this type of worship or this particular cult or creed. God is all that is. You want that God to go? Then you go. You want God that will go with you to these new realms of expression, to a fuller life, feeling better, happier, more contented, peaceful, witnessing peace around you and harmony and not chaos. Then you got to go with it. And it'll take some courage. That's the kind of risk we read about in the story of Judith in the Bible. That's also not usually told in Sunday school. Here's what happened. Judith is in this whole tribal area, and she's a widow, and she's just a 10, she's gorgeous. And the bad guys are there, and they've oppressed the people, but they've noticed Judith. And so she prays about it. You read about that in our responsive reading. She gets alone, gets centered. Okay, God, I'm scared, but here I go. Kind of like Cher in that movie Moonstruck when she had her hair done. Same sort of thing. Don't you love that? I love makeover movies, So it's scary. You know what? It's supposed to be scary. If you weren't scared, you'd be nuts. It's scary. And she goes to the tent of the bad guy who's figuring that he's going to kind of have her for dinner after dinner. And she waits till he falls asleep because he's kind of an idiot and he drinks too much and passes out. And in a very delicate and loving spiritual way, she lops his head off and puts it in her purse. I mean, that's a way to make a point, I think. She comes walking home and they say, so, what happened? How'd you get away? She goes, well, look at this. Look familiar? And it rallies the troops and they throw off the oppressors and all that. Now, I'm not suggesting. Please understand, I'm not suggesting that you wait by the road and pick up sailors or strangers, or that you lop people's head off once you have them sedated. No, because those things won't really change your life and you'll get into a lot of trouble. What I'm suggesting is you look for the meaning here. You want to cut the head off of that fear thought. You want that David in you, that young shepherd boy that doesn't want the armor, to stand there with nothing but a slingshot and hit that right at the thought itself. He had arrived just to deliver some takeout to his brothers, and everybody's trembling about this big Goliath. Everybody's scared to death. The idea was, if you can beat him, we give up because we don't think you can beat him. What's your Goliath? That insurance payment? Your rent? That debt that you owe? That issue that you can't talk about in your family at all? Because everybody would cry and get upset and you'd be blamed and all that. What is your Goliath that makes you tremble? Goliath can be so subtle. It can be that feeling you get when you think, oh my God, did I send that email to the wrong person? That's your Goliath. It's your giant. So what are you going to do with that? Well, you're going to go out there and say, okay, how have I applied principle in my life before? David said, here's why I'm not afraid. I know how to throw these rocks with this slingshot. I'm a pretty good shot. I know how to go right to the heart of the matter, right to the center of the thought. It worked with the lions, and it worked with the bears, and it's going to work on this Goliath guy. Once you know God as principle, not as personality, you're going to be okay. See, the children of Israel, when they were leaving Egypt, taking that tremendous risk, they were directed to camp at a place called Baal Zephon. Baal Zephon. And often sailors would camp there and do rituals and prayers and sacrifices before they set out to sea, because they hoped that God would be kind enough to them. If you believe that God is somebody you have to please, you're never going to make it. God is as accessible as the principles of mathematics and music. It doesn't mean God is cold or unloving. God is love itself. And if you know the law, bring on the Philistines, and we all work with them. They don't stand a chance against you. Has anybody else made risks? Sure. There are people right here sitting in your row who've been told they wouldn't live to be this day. And here they are. There are people in your row who've been told, you'll never make it. You can't make that business go. You'll never find love. You'll never get away. You'll never get free. And you did. Is that little video ready? It's only about 2 minutes, and it talks about risk. Remember that, Russ? He has 50,000 things. Here it comes. I think you'll like it.
Dismissed from drama school with a note that read, wasting her time. She's too shy to put her best foot forward. Turned down by the Decca recording company, who said, we don't like their sound, and guitar music is on the way out. A failed soldier, farmer, and real estate agent. At 38 years old, he went to work for his father as a handyman. Cut from the high school basketball team, he went home, locked himself in his room, and cried. A teacher told him he was too stupid to learn anything, and he should go into a field where he might succeed by virtue of his pleasant personality. Fired from a newspaper because he lacked imagination and had no original ideas. His fiancée died. He failed in business twice. He had a nervous breakdown, and he was defeated in 8 elections. If you've never failed, you've never lived.
So it's worth the risk. What is it you really risk? Change. Change is so scary. But you have to face it. It will be worth it. And really, no matter what happens, even if the particular endeavor that you're stepping out on doesn't get fulfilled the way you thought you wanted it to, you'll learn something about yourself and your strength and your courage. And yes, you'll be different. You'll take a risk, and you'll be more of who you really are. What you do in love, you have the courage to do. Recently, we went to the conference of the Unity Worldwide Ministries. The issue before us was an assessment amendment to allow Unity Worldwide memories? That's good, I like that. Ministries to assess each church a certain percentage of gross income, regardless of expenses. Their explanation was, we have to know how to plan. And we answered, and so do we. We trust principle, so can you. They said, well, just call it a tithe. That doesn't work. A tithe is a free will offering, not a mandatory tribute. There is no threat if you don't give it. What do you have to lose if you don't take your risks and give generously wherever you receive your spiritual food? And that's your call between you and God. Nothing to do with me, nothing to do with Unity Worldwide Ministries. It's all you. It's what you choose. If you can give in love, you take the risk of receiving in love, but that's what it's about. And so we refuse the amendment. They didn't get the 2/3 majority that they require. Will it come back again? I don't know. But this much I know. We will not issue pledges to you. We will not charge you to be a member here or tell you that you must give X amount of percentage of your income, because we know who you are. If it comes to that and we need gimmicks, please, no more special credit cards that send the church money and all these things. We don't want that. We want you to give because you get the spiritual food. Because when you can do that, when you are ready to risk that love, you're ready to receive in your life in 1,000 ways. So the Bible is, to me, my revelation and prayer this morning. It is a love song to win your heart. And these stories we read in the Bible about courage, about Judith, and about Tamar, and about David, and about everybody that ever took a chance for love. It's about God saying to you, look, I love you so much. I see who you are. And if the song could be put in terms, well, it's every love song you ever loved. God changed the names of his leaders. He's changing your character. What is that song? Melodious, gentle, ethereal, classical. I like a you like a me, like we like a both the same. I like a say this very day. I like a change your name. Well, I don't know if everybody should change their name when they get married, but the point is, God is saying, I love you so much. I want to rename you as my adored one. I want you to know that I want to love you like nobody's loved you, come rain or come shine. And that when we're willing to take a risk, that's the call, that's the love song. Now, I'm not allowed to play it as it's playing in my head, because we have to use a certain license. That's why we so adore Empower Music and Arts. It gives us the beautiful music, and we're licensed to use it here. But if I could have, and maybe we can get Santana to get into Empower Music and Arts, but you know that song, right? See, the children of Israel had said, we don't like our life. We want it to be better. So God answers, in my understanding, in these words. Now, if you said this life ain't good enough, I would give my world to lift you up. I can change my life to better suit your mood. You got the kind of loving that can be so smooth. Give me your heart, make it real, or else forget about it. I like it. Well, you asked God for something. Don't say you didn't. You wouldn't be here if you hadn't. Something you want. What does it mean to you? More freedom, more self-esteem, more peace, more wholeness, more strength, more life. What it is more love. That's what you want. When you give in love and you live in love, you get with the flow of this. You want to be free? Well, I'm now claiming this Freedom Summer. Once again, people say, well, attendance is going to be down and love offerings are going to be down. Really? When you change, everything changes. When you're ready to take a risk and love a little more and be a little more and get into the flow, you'll find that you are free and you're making that choice every single day. Let's pray. Bring back the music.